I'm Luke Manson, and this is the Kiwistyle podcast. Here I talk to my friends in the New Zealand hardcore and metal scene about what they've been up to and what they're going to get up to. I'm the singer of the band Xile, and I've been playing in New Zealand hardcore bands for about 18 years non-stop. So I've made a couple friends and probably a couple enemies along the way. And here is where I'm going to share those stories on the Kiwistyle podcast. For Vasely Part 2, we talk about the origins of Saving Grace. We talk about his immigration to New Zealand from Belarus and his general, hardships making it in the New Zealand music industry and touring overseas. So I think there's plenty of good chats in here. We've had a couple beers, so bear with us. On to the podcast.
No, all good. Until I still got it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even know I was wearing those.
Oh, look at those.
Nike
Beautiful.
Monarch
Beautiful
Air
Monarchs.
Force.
Okay, now.
Damn, but it's bringing my step.
Where is that?
All right, so we're talking about
bag?
Josh back in Saving Grace.
Yeah, man.
Very cool, very cool. And the boys obviously pretty nostalgic. You've got Mike Benson, who I recall.
He's been in the Dauntless.
The Dauntless, yeah, back in the deathcore days when I used to play in Force-Fed Trauma, we played with the Dauntless.
He was an Upheld.
Yeah, Upheld, cool.
Who we put a split out with a long time
Little
ago.
Green EP, I've got that in my closet, yeah.
Rare,
and
brother.
the paper slip.
Rare, brother. Actually, Mike and Sean both sort of joined around the King is Coming era, 2011.
Was Sean straight after that Dude Beer?
No, we had, our very first lineup in 2004, the first show we played was with Mark Stitchbury, who played in Total Fucking Defiance with me. Him and Bruce Reed were the originals. So Mark, Bruce, Nick and I, and we played a bunch of shows and we recorded the demo. That was like a hand-printed, sort of hand-copied CDR but printed short run 2005 self-titled demo. 2004 maybe even, and we played a bunch of shows that year. That was when we played our first SmackDown and stuff, I think 2006 as a 4-piece, and then after that Ben had left around probably 2010 Unbreakable. I think we shot our first music video and he walked off the set after a 14-hour shoot and we didn't see him again for a year and a half.
Really?
We're like, oh, true. Yeah. Nah, all good. Big Ben, you're talking about Papa Bear?
Yeah.
He's a legend, bro.
I just remember all those Saving Grace band photos and just being like, who the fuck?
Yeah,
Do you know what I
bro.
mean?
We were coming from a different sort of area,
We'll get into that because I'm from the Bad Plenty too.
Yeah.
But all good.
Yeah, bro.
All right, and then Big George.
Yeah, bro.
Big George on guitar.
Yeah.
Love seeing George.
Yeah,
always
man.
a smile on his face.
Yeah,
he's
a
high
legend.
energy.
He's a mad shredder, bro. Obviously George played guitar on The King is Coming when Benson played bass, and then when Ross joined the band, George played bass.
Yeah.
And he's an incredible bassist. He's an amazing bass player. But having him on the second guitar with me fucking rules as well. We're really, really happy.
So the set list as well. I didn't know what the set list was, but I've seen Saving Grace a few times, and you usually mix it up with a lot of the material. But I did notice on the Summer of Hardcore night, you played the old school bangers because there was a lot that gave me that nostalgic vibe.
Nice.
You know what I mean? All of a sudden I was on the guest Fox mic.
Nice.
Screaming. I was just I know this bit.
Yeah.
You know
So it was by design. We wanted to kind of just do a short and sharp set because it was first show with Josh, also a very, very late long day, when you were going to be on last. Didn't want to play for an hour, so we had I think an 8 or 9 song set list. We were all yep, this makes sense. I think we played at least 2 songs off each of the 4 records. It was good, man. I liked it. We opened with Unbreakable, which we don't normally do, right? And I just wanted to have the energy from the jump, otherwise it usually goes second to last or last, so that was cool. But yeah, bro, it was fun, and it was just good to be back on stage. It's been a while for Saving Grace, so I think we've all got a bit of fire in us right now to get new music out ASAP.
Right. Really
looking forward to dropping some new stuff over the next few months and playing more shows, but being really, we're in a different stage of life. We were really selective with what we'll do now. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. I'll be looking forward to it. Let's get into a bit of Saving Grace origin story.
Sure.
So let's talk about you actually. So you immigrated from Belarus into New Zealand.
Yep, 1992, just after the Iron Curtain fell down, bro.
Yeah, straight up. Yep. Yeah, I played Command and Conquer Red Alert here. I know what's up.
I know my history.
Yeah,
bro. 92. I had my 7th birthday in New Zealand, Gisborne. 93 January. Yeah, bro.
Yeah. Tell me, Gisborne.
Yeah.
Tell me, how did you end up in Gisborne?
My mum married a Kiwi. I never knew my dad growing up because he was a military guy who left while my mum was pregnant with me. My mum worked in the KGB for many, many years in communications, as did many people back in the 90s in the Soviet Union. So she met a Kiwi guy. They got married over there. He brought us over here to live in New Zealand. Really fucked up backstory, quite an abusive, sad time actually for my mum. But anyway, she's got a great husband now. Not that particular person that she was with at the time. She's my new stepfather's like been in my life for 25 years, and I have two younger brothers who are Kiwi boys. You know, born to my mum, my stepdad, and yeah, we started our life here in the early 90s, and it was crazy coming from like the capital of Belarus, Minsk, a massive city, you know, 4 or 5 million people, to like a fishing village on the east coast of one of the smallest Pacific countries in the world.
Because it is like all the piers and stuff. Like I know BMX is from Gisborne and stuff, and like it's a big fishing town. And
man.
To get to Gisborne as well, you've got to like drive.
Bro,
if the gorge closes, you can't get.
You can't get there by mistake, bro. You got to be going there with a reason, like, you know what I mean? And it's not easy to fly in there because there's like 2 flights a day.
Yeah,
you got a gorge separating you each way.
Yeah,
it's very isolated in the sense that like a lot of people that grow up in Gisborne stay in Gisborne for a long time. So for me, having that, like coming from a massive European country to move to have a childhood in a smaller place in New Zealand, I was happy, you know, like we had a great life. 90s were awesome. You probably remember. Life was different.
Living up on that coast, like I grew up in Whakatane. I was born in Whakatane on the Hopi Beach, so like that's the same shoreline we were sharing.
Yeah, bro. So, you know what? Like it's such a beautiful part of New Zealand to grow up in. Yeah, and because it's such a multicultural city, like Gisborne is like, you know, it's probably 50% Māori, 50% Pākehā. Yeah, I grew up like with te reo all around me. Like it's just been a huge part of my life growing up. So having that like weird integration into like, you know, Kiwi culture, but being from the Soviet Union is quite interesting.
What was she doing for work? Like, what was there like? Was there a government incentive to go there? You know, like
no, they stopped her on the ship, tried to stop us coming over. Like followed her onto the thing. There's a long story, bro. There's heaps of shit actually.
Oh wow.
I'm sure I can talk about it because it's a long time ago now. But they didn't make it easy for us to leave. But she was like, "You can do what you want with me, but once I'm on the ship with my son, I'm never coming back." Yeah. And we got on. It took a month to get to Australia initially. We actually sailed all across the world from Leningrad or St. Petersburg in Russia to Brisbane, Australia, and then took a flight to Gisborne when I started my life here. What was that, 32 years ago?
That is a massive trip because St. Petersburg is on the north side of the country, and you've got to sail through that whole thing through like northern Europe, don't you? And then
we went all over Europe through like Holland, Denmark. Yeah. Went through Antarctica and South Africa, bro. Yeah. Over a month. It was mad. It was insane. Like on this massive ship. Like the ship was huge. It was like a container ship. Had its own cinema on board, restaurant, its own chef, like heaps of crew and stuff. Yeah. That's how we got here.
Crazy.
Yeah, G. On the water.
Oh, you say Antarctica. Oh, that's right, because the Earth is not flat. So you can go around the back.
Oh, that's right.
How many tiger low carbs have we been through? Oh, interesting. Just because it's just like such a stretch to make your way here. Yeah. Because every time I think of something like that, obviously because my missus is from Brazil and she found her way. Yeah. She found her way to New Zealand just from a safety perspective. Yeah. Like they wanted to go to UK, but there was people blowing up trains and cutting people's heads off, and then she wanted to go to America. Everyone's shooting each other, and then she wanted to go to Australia, and then the ISIS people were outside the Sydney Opera House, and then she changed her flights and ended up in New Zealand. And then I remember going to China on tour, and I remember just like looking up, and there was this massive LED billboard, and it was New Zealand with like a landscape thing, and I was just
the clean green sort of marketing machine.
Yeah, and I was just thinking how people end up here, and then like it could have been that person in China's just sitting there like waiting to cross the road like I was, and was just like, oh yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, I mean it's crazy, bro. Like the contrast of my childhood, I guess, because I went back a bunch of times as a kid there. Like went back 4 times between the age of having moved here and like 15. We'd gone back to see family and stuff, and then I couldn't go back for the longest time because they don't recognise dual citizenship. They don't give a shit, even though I've got a New Zealand passport. Oh yeah. If I would have gone there between the ages of 18 and 27, they would have just arrested me at the airport and threw me in the army for 2 years. Yeah. Like that mandatory conscript culture is heavy over there, and people come out of the Belarus military changed, like, and not in a good way, you know. Like a good day, I think, in the Soviet military, with a lot of the stuff that goes on, is probably harder than some of the hardest days in prison over here. You know, a lot of people get abused. They, you know, like, just heaps of crazy shit that happens. So I ain't trying to do that, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, for all of that as well, the richest, the people who were wanting to stay rich would have wanted to stay particularly rich, and then kept most of that money in those cities and stuff. So all of those other states that were around, like Belarus and stuff, were extra poor, right?
Well, there's no middle class, bro. Like, you go back there, nothing's really changed. It's like going back in time. Like, everyone's either extremely wealthy, and most of the wealth comes from corrupt means, or everyone is at the same level, and that level is like well beneath any poverty line you and I can imagine. So most people back home where I'm from to this day will live on $500 per month per household.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So if you go there and you got like 10 G's in your pocket and you're trying to have a good time, people don't have any idea about that sort of money. You know what I mean? Like, you can't go back there and even like contrast how we live here.
Spend it too.
No, but it's just such a different life, and people just grind to survive. Suicide rates are low because people are struggling just to survive. They're fighting for their life. It's such a different culture. Everything's different, bro, in the East versus the West, I think.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that when Brazil, driving past like the favelas and stuff.
Yeah,
like I thought I'd seen like when we went toured like Philippines and Manila and stuff, and I'd seen the favelas on there, and I'd seen like kind of like the poverty, the worst I'd seen there. But then when you go to Brazil, and you
totally changes,
see whole cities of hillsides, hillsides of like makeshift housing.
We toured Mexico, bro, and we spent time. We actually did like a week in an orphanage helping kids and stuff, and the way that these people live, man, they have nothing, and they'll give you everything. Just the most beautiful hearts, you know. They live so humbly, but you come back here and everyone's bored and confused and stressed out, and we've got so much shit, and everyone's just like miserable, you know. All
right. Let's talk about, so 7 years old. How does in Gisborne?
All right, change this fucking subject.
Up, bro. The sun is so hot, and it's getting dark, dude. The sun's so hot in Gisborne.
Yeah,
like I've
it's
been
a different sort of heat, eh?
I've been to R&B like 5 years in a row.
Coming out looking like a fucking cooked prawn.
I've been sunburned in R&B, bro. Rhythm and Vines, whole like week, whole festival.
Hamish Pinkham did a fantastic job building that festival into being what it is today.
Yeah,
the hugest fucking thing in the Southern Hemisphere. Like for a New Year's festival, bro, that like the whole city transforms for a week. It's a horrible time to live in Gisborne. You can't get food anywhere. The queues are huge. People come and just trash the city for a week and they fuck off. You know, it's like it's not a cool time, but cool festival if you're into if you want to pop pingers when you're 18 and go and watch like.
Oh yeah, me and all my school friends just get all your tents together and I'm trying to search for the memories, but I might have left them there.
Yeah.
So all right, so you getting into how does because when I think of Gisborne, I think of R&B. I know there's a lot of gangs there and stuff. So how does metal music make it into your life? How do you find hardcore? And then
it's a great question. I'm trying to remember. So growing up, I got into metal real young. Like I got into Slayer, I think, when I was maybe like 10. I saw the Live Undead vinyl in my friend's brother's garage.
I got Live Undead vinyl. Yep.
Yeah, bro. You know, like I got into Slayer real young. I got obsessed with Slayer. I started getting into heaps of different types of metal, like we all do. Like I got obsessed with early death metal, like all the Flora stuff, Cannibal Corpse and Deicide.
Yeah.
Pantera, like one of my favorite bands to this day. Unpopular opinion, but hey, great band.
I tell you what was really cool about the Live Undead vinyl was it had Show No Mercy live on it, but it also had Haunting the Chapel live songs.
Bro, Haunting the Chapel is a great.
That's why I always listen to Live Undead, because I got two. I got Show No Mercy songs and Haunting the Chapel songs.
Yeah. No, that's a good show.
Pantera,
always been a big Pantera fan. So as a kid, bro, I remember like being 12, 13 years old, like biking to high school with my Walkman, listening to the Pantera 101 Live Proof album, bro. That and When Satan Lives by Deicide, bro. Live in Chicago. Fuck, what a banger of an album.
Shout out Glenn Benton.
Yeah, Glenn Benton, bro.
Nice forehead.
He's running out of nice forehead, G. He's running out of things to get like to say in his albums. He's like, I'm mad at God. I'm upset
Still
at the
mad.
cross.
Still mad, G.
Yeah. You know, but it's all good. Each to their own. He'll get saved.
The album before the last one, I forget what it's called, the one with the white and black cover.
Once Upon a Cross. No, you're talking about
very recent.
The black cover.
No. Once Upon the Cross is white and red. Yeah. But one of their most recent albums I thought was killer. Really cool guitar solos. I think they've got a guitarist from.
I don't know who's in their side anymore, because Jack Owen left Cannibal Corpse and played in Deicide for a while. Like I grew up listening to the Hoffman brothers, bro, Eric and Brian. Mean lineup, you know, that like Legion era, Once Upon a Cross, Serpents of the Light. So all of that stuff, I grew up listening to that. And when I go back to Belarus, I'd find the most cult metal, bro. Like, because you get music from the markets. Like, there was no record stores. Everything was bootleg or imported, illegal. So you go to these markets and people would be doing these mad distros, and that's how I got into like tons of the extreme metal that I grew up on. Like that's how I found like Limbonic Art and a lot of the black metal that I like. So I going back there and just getting all this crazy merch and finding all these records. And then in my like early teens, maybe 15, 16, I started like finding out hardcore, like finding bands like Earth Crisis and Biohazard, you know, old shit, and just being like, whoa, this is way different. But it wasn't until I'd seen it live. It wasn't until the early 2000s when I was at a show seeing, you know, Hatebreed play that Perseverance tour that I was like, wow, this is a different world. Because coming from Gizzy, we'd never seen it. Me and Nick caught the bus, bro, from Gisborne, because we saw the ads for the Hatebreed tour on Mulch, I think, on late night TV.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, this is back in the day. There was a metal show that would play like 11 o'clock, I think, on a Friday night, and they'd just play metal and hardcore videos. Yeah. And we saw the ads for this Hatebreed tour, like, we've got to go. At that point, we had never heard a band sound like them. And then that show, bro, just changed our life. We came back with this renewed sort of energy into Gizzy, and we're like, we need to do a band that sounds more like this, because we'd grown up playing in bands together, metal bands. I used to be in a band that kind of sounded more like Machine Head, sort of like Biohazard sort of stuff, almost like new metal-y sort of.
Was it Pain something?
Nah, I don't know what Pain band you're talking about.
Nick dobbed you in with some.
Painfest? Did he tell you about this?
Painfest.
Painfest, yeah. That was a show that him and I booked in Gizzy. That was our first. We booked a fucking massive like an arena, not arena. Fuck, what do you call them? Like a theater. You know, have you like the Gisborne Theatre?
Refractory.
Yeah,
Tell me about Refractory.
Band. Shit band.
Best known for playing ultra brutal death metal at Champion College lunchtimes.
Yeah, bro, we had a flyer that told everyone to come and see us play at lunchtime, I think, when I was 14 or 15. That was my first band.
Oh, yeah, cool, nice.
That's how me and Nick met. He was playing in a band called NAF at high school when I was in Refractory, and we were like rock west bands that ended up like taking ourselves quite seriously and trying to do shows.
NAF is a good word when I think of Nick. Also, the black metal project he and I did, which involved me on drums, a cardboard box, and vocals, and him on guitar. Also, another short-lived project called Open Fire with the bro Tim, Saving Grace's first bassist Bruce. He may not remember as he was insanely high the whole time.
Sounds about right.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You throw him out of the bus.
He's got, I mean, there's a whole another paragraph there of crack up jokes. So Saving Grace's first hardcore band, so you did a little bit of metal bands.
Yeah, no, I actually did TFD before Saving Grace, so I sang in a hardcore band where Mark from Saving Grace was the drummer, Frank, and actually Tim. I'm trying to remember who's in the band. My friend Drew. You remember Drug Free Mike from Gizzy? His older brother played in TFD with me, played guitar. So we played a bunch of shows for like a year, heavy hardcore. Yeah. Kind of like, I guess, early Throwdown, Hatebreed sort of influence type of stuff.
Yeah, cool.
Played a bunch of shows. Played in Hamilton, I think, once at Youth Zone before it shut down. With like One Must Fall and Kill Me Quickly. Did some cool shows, and then Saving Grace happened.
Who were the local bands around Gisborne? I mean, could you draw? So you're into metal, and then you had to go to Auckland to see Hatebreed. Yeah. So when you come back and you're like, fuck, I want to play hardcore. Yep. Were you like the first band playing hardcore? I mean,
100%. How'd you create that?
How'd you create that scene there?
Yeah, well, we just started booking shows. We had access to a venue out the back of this nightclub that all the mongrel mob used to go and drink at called
because they got a PAA for there.
Oh, what?
They got a PA as well there.
No,
they sing songs too. Eh?
Yeah, of course. I love it. I love a sing song. No, there was this place called Bricks, and out the back there was this alleyway, and one of our friends' aunties or something had like a storefront, and the back of this garage opened up into this massive car park. She was like, "You can fucking book shows here." We're like, "True."
Short auntie.
So we were like, bro, we were in there, just like decked it out with the shittest backline we could find at the time. Everyone pulled their gear. I think this is before.
Couple line 6 combos.
Oh no, worse than that, bro. There was like an Ashton stack.
Are you talking like single speaker combos?
I'm talking about no tubes, bro. Like these valve amps, you know, like $1,000 like sort of 4x12 and a shitty head with like a distortion that just sounds like dog shit.
Everyone's sharing a tuner, and or not.
Yeah. It was like that, bro. But you know,
Cool.
we put a drum kit in there, and I think we booked our first sort of show there. It was like, I can't remember who played that, bro. It might have been Another Reason to Die was a band that was around at the time.
Right.
And they were kind of like influenced by bands like Norma Jean and that sort of like heavier, darker, sort of like weird sort of hardcore. We started booking shows there, bro, and like all ages shows. Because by 2004, 2005, back in the days when we started going to hardcore shows, everyone was sober. There was not a lot of drinking going on. So the bogans that would come and drink at shows, everyone was straight edge pretty much.
Yeah.
A lot of us were like clean, serene, all sober for a very long time. So we wanted to make all ages shows where people could come and have a good time, not worry about, you know, people getting too drunk and smashing stuff around. So, but then eventually people would come and just bring beers from the pub and come watch the bands, and everyone kind of integrated really well. But that's what got the scene built. It was having a regular venue, booking shows all the time. We would travel all the time out of town as well. Like, it'd be like, what got us into hardcore was that it was normal for a Friday to clock off work, jump in the car, drive like 5 to 6 hours to either Hamilton or Auckland, go to a show, and then just get straight in the car and drive back.
Yeah.
We did it so many times because someone would always have work on a Saturday or some bullshit, but there would always be one dude that would be keen to drive all across the country to catch the next hardcore show and then come home. Because there was so many good bands around at the time that we were into.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
I remember, right around that time you're explaining, I think this is the first time I ever heard of Saving Grace.
Right.
So it was before I was into hardcore.
Yeah.
But I remember, so I was a BMXer, and there was a BMX Gizzy crew.
Was there? That you guys were riding together or something? Or?
Yeah. So we'd set them at like skate parks and like for competitions and just basic competitions. They'd turn up, and they were always real tight with the Rotorua guys.
Yeah.
Because my friend Steve, he was from Gisborne too, and we were all listening. So we'd listen to like the hardest kind of shit we'd listen to would be like Trivium and like 3 Inches of Blood. And we listened to 8 Foot too. Yeah. And I remember the Gisborne guys were at this one Rotorua party, and they're like, listen to like put on Saving Grace, and I was like, fuck, this is like hard out shit. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, we're into like hardcore, and I'd like never heard of it. And then apparently they'd go to shows and shit. And then I asked Nick about it, and he said to me that because they were like the most rugged dudes I'd ever met, like real good BMXers, like fearless, but like they'd hit the piss hard. Yeah, bro. And so specifically, like when you guys like all claimed Edge, Nick was telling me that they were all annoyed at that, because like you guys are all drawing X's on your hands, and they used to turn up to shows with W's on their hands.
That wasn't W's.
Just to fuck with
it
you.
wasn't W's, but one dude came with an O or something.
Oh, really?
Like a cross, not an across, just to be combative. But yeah, no, that was actually a big turning point. So I'm pretty sure I would have been the first straight edge person in Gisborne by a long mile. Yeah, because I would have claimed, I think in 2004, I was done, because I was already like out of control as a kid. Like I've been smoking ciggies since I was 10, coming from Belarus. You know, like properly smoking since I was 10, like drinking all the time. Yeah, bro, those old school, you know, the Soviet darts. But also just also constantly just smoking weed and stuff as a kid. And then by the time I found hardcore and I found that scene and community, I was like, you know what, this is going to be good for me. I don't need this anymore in my life. And I was very resolute to stay sober. Cool. And then heaps of people got influenced by that. Like, like we went from, you know, seeing 1 or 2 straight edge people at shows to like heaps. Like, so the scene became quite strong, and there's a lot of cool influences and a lot of role models for people kind of growing up and to have conversations with and understand more about the culture, and veganism as well. You know, where a lot of us were into vegetarianism and veganism for a long time. Obviously, I'm a turncoat now, been eating meat for years, but you know, I was really, really into that, you know, sort of side of ethics and politics for a long time, both.
I remember the scene was so big back then that you could afford to be part of like a different group, like a group of straight edges would turn up, a group of Christians would turn up, a group of Pisheads would turn up, a group of emos would turn up. Do you know what I mean? Which is my crew. Do you know what I mean? So like you could afford to be in like your segregated group, but like, you know, like now and for like a long time, like you're standing in a circle and your group of friends is now you've got one of each of those people. You know what I mean? Like sure. You don't have
100%, bro. It was crazy back in the day. It was so big, like, and so diverse, and just so different to how it is now. Again, like in the 2000s, the scene came from a place that was very underground. You know, like we all discovered bands and shows through the old analog means of printed flyers and reading thank you lists on the back of CDs to discover the next band you're going to get into. There was none of this like proliferation of instant access to music, as you remember.
Yeah.
It was at the boom of like social media, early social media, that MySpace. I reckon that really helped some of our bands to actually like get discovered globally.
Yeah,
that was different. That was like a game changer for us.
That's when I stepped into it. Yeah, so I remember like bands had profiles.
Yeah, bro.
People had profiles. People you could put like people would have like their song on their profile and like whatever, like I don't know, top 8, but you could
Chuck
choose
me in your top 12, G.
Yeah. But you could put the song on there, and I remember finding lots of new music from just that one song that someone had on that thing. So imagine, extrapolate that from you reading the thanks list to that one song on that thing, and then now I can go follow someone's playlist.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
You know what I mean?
It's cool. Like, it's great. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate the fact that it's easier to do stuff now, but it's also so different because you had to really work to, you know, to get your music back in the day. Yeah. So it just made you dig harder and find cooler stuff, and everything was a bit more treasured and precious, I think.
True.
As a fan.
Yeah.
That's how it feels to me now, but I'm old. I don't know. Maybe kids still feel that same passion when they discover like a music video on YouTube or something.
I think the fight has changed to like try to get to the top. So like, you know, like World War Z and all those zombies are like scrambling over each other to get over the fence or whatever. Yeah. That's what it's like to try and get your music heard now. So
yeah, I suppose so. I suppose it's probably way easier to get lost in the sea of, you know, you're now exposed immediately to how many bands are trying to do the same thing as well at a global level. Whereas back in the day, there wasn't anywhere near the same number of bands. You look at the States now, there'll be like probably 100 heavy local bands in every little shitty city. Yeah. Whereas back in the day, you knew every metal band, every hardcore band that represented that state. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just way different.
So how long was the actual Gisborne era? Because I'm getting that, I'm feeling like it wasn't actually kind of that long. Like you started up Saving Grace there, and like,
I reckon
and then
the show's 2004 was the start of the Gisborne scene, and then I reckon it would have gone strong for like 4 or 5 years, maybe at least. Yeah, probably not 4 or 5 years at the same venue, but like enough to be able to come back and play shows. Yeah, for sure. But that like all ages sort of like real hardcore scene would have lasted a good couple of years and kind of peaked when we started just booking a whole bunch of bands to come through. Started seeing bands like Damage and Antagonist and Warpath and Moment of Truth all come through. Yeah,
I got sent an Antagonist video of like back in the day and was like, it looked like the show was wild. That
was awesome. That was a good night. I remember that show. Yeah, there was heaps of cool shows that happened back then, man. I miss those days. We actually got asked just recently if we want to do like a reunion show there, because apparently someone's got access to the venue again.
Oh yeah.
So
it looked like to me like it was a shed.
Yeah, it was exactly that, bro. It was a shed with a car park and a whole bunch of gravel at the front that connected to the alleyway behind this bar, bro.
Oh yeah.
It's called the Centre. We used to call it the Centre. Yeah.
And it's floor shows, right?
Yeah, floor shows. Yeah. We would have booked like a dozen mean shows there, like huge lineups that kids would have been lucky to see, bro. Almost like, you know, thinking back.
All right, awesome. we got some more things from Nick. So he says Toyota Chaser, which is irreplaceable.
Oh, bro.
Tape of Nick's.
Oh my gosh.
What tape of Nick's did you destroy and how?
I don't know. I couldn't remember what tape of his I destroyed, but I can tell you about the Toyota Chaser. That was the first car I bought, bro. I think I was 16 years old. It was awesome. It was like an 80s gangster car, bro.
It was like Mark 1 or Mark 2, because they're worth a lot of money now.
Bro, they're hard to find, bro. They're beautiful. So I bought this car, bro. I can't remember what I paid, like $450, I think. My first car, bro, and I bought it and I drove it to his house and we wired these house speakers into my boot. We just drove around Gizzy all day cranking like Destroy the Opposition and Killing on Adrenaline by Dying Fetus. Yeah. Obnoxiously.
Oh yeah, love Dying Fetus.
Yeah, bro.
So his hint is milk.
Oh. Yeah,
milkshake.
Bro.
Yeah. Chocolate milkshake.
No, it wasn't chocolate, it was lime. So,
anyone who's watching this from overseas, I want to know if lime milkshakes exist, because there's nothing more Kiwi than a fucking lime milkshake with like a scoop of vanilla with like the long giraffe, like the longest shake, lime shake.
Yeah, bro. That longest drink in town is like a staple of Kiwi culture.
Straight up.
What's your go-to milkshake flavor, G?
Banana. I like doubling up on banana. If someone can give me a real banana with fake banana syrup, I'm all over it, dude. Straight up.
Bananas ain't bananas anymore, bro, I reckon as well. Like the bananas I used to eat growing up don't taste like the bananas these days, do they?
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, I'm being serious.
Fucking banana.
I reckon the good bananas are long gone.
Oh yeah.
Those old.
You ever heard of a town called Awakiri?
No.
Like 20 minutes out of Whakatane?
No.
I used to know that went to intermediate there before someone burned it down. But this kid used to eat banana skins.
True.
Yeah.
We used to smoke banana skins when we were kids. Yeah, because it was like apparently they could get you ripped. That was the rumor. So we dry them out.
Shredded, like muscles?
No, like stoned.
Oh,
so we try and smoke banana skins. It didn't do anything, bro. It's a lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
what'd you move on to after that? Sounds like you were trying everything.
All sorts. Yeah.
All sorts. Licorice all sorts.
Licorice all sorts. All
straight
snorts.
Up.
All snorts. No.
Did you know that there's a YouTube channel with multicam desk audio of all your favorite New Zealand hardcore and metal bands? Well, most of them anyway. Judgment Day Productions. Judgment Day Productions is a YouTube channel run by Matt Livingstone of Antagonist AD and myself. Pretty much we go to shows, we film them, and we put them on the internet. Pretty simple. I'm going to leave a comment down below with a link to that channel. Back to the podcast. All right, last one from Mick. He wants to know west side of Russia. He wants to know if anyone...
I knew this was going to come up.
He wants to know if anyone gives a fuck or not.
Absolutely not. And I'll elaborate no further, bro, because I'll get myself into trouble.
All right.
He'll appreciate where I'm coming from, but they do not give a fuck.
He also wants to know about bleeding monkeys.
Bleeding monkeys. I think that was like when he used to pull buckies in the shed for me, bro. Like I'd hit like 24 of them in a row, just like wild when I was like 17.
Yeah.
And we called them bleeding monkeys.
All right. So how many? Let's get back to SG. How many records did you actually release, like as like a formative band before you know, when you're becoming like a local mainstay and you're traveling like Hamtown Smackdowns and up to Auckland and stuff? You did your first record? Or?
We had a demo. We had like four or five songs. I think we had a demo. We had a split. The upheld split, I think we did 2 originals and a cover of each other's songs. Mm-hmm. So we covered one of each other's songs from respective demos, which was a cool thing to do. Yeah. And I think we did maybe...
Still a great idea today.
Yeah. That was real fun, man. That was a cool time. We played a bunch of shows around New Zealand. I couldn't tell you how many, maybe half a dozen to support the release of that.
Yeah.
And then that was all we had until we got signed for the first record. Like, it got released, you know, globally, because we had an Aussie label, a Canadian label that also handled North America, and we signed to Dead Boy and Universal with Angelo, for that one album, and that's kind of like it got 3 different releases all over the world at the same time on 3
different artwork labels. And stuff.
So the Kiwi and the Kiwi and Harvest Earth American Canadian versions look the same, but the US CD was slightly different. It was like
upside down, or
like an inverted color, like it was like white and red. A stripped back version of the same image, but it was full color in New Zealand. It just looked different, kind of cool. But so that came out, I think we recorded it in 2007, and I believe it came out like early 2008.
Sure.
Yeah, and that was 3 years after already being a band and playing a whole heap of shows. So,
all right. So we talked about the Gisborne scene, your first EP, branching out, like touring around like Hamtown Smackdown, Auckland, smashing the New Zealand scene, and then getting signed to a label.
Yeah.
And then where did you go from there? I mean, what was your mindset? So,
bro, the mindset when we started this band was just like just wanted to play shows out of town. Like our only goal was like, can we play a Smackdown one time? Like, can we get on Hamtown Smackdown?
I remember the feeling, Smackdown. That was the goal at the time. Was let's play Smackdown.
So when we got asked to play 2006, we'd have been a band for like just over a year and a bit. You know, like that was like, whoa, sick. We get to play Smackdown. We came and played. We started getting put on a whole bunch of good shows. Like we started getting good supports. Like, you know, we went from playing just in that shed to like 30 or 40 of our mates to starting to play to bigger crowds, getting on shows with like Darkest Hour and Bleeding Through. In the Parkway tour.
I recall those shows. Yeah. Darkest Hour specifically. Yeah.
That was a wild bunch of shows actually. So that's when things started to change. You know, like we started getting bigger shows, bigger crowds, but it wasn't until we dropped that first album that things really started to change, because we started getting fans outside of New Zealand because we put songs on MySpace and stuff. Started getting a whole bunch of following that way. We had a record to promote. We did a massive tour. Like at the time, not like hardcore bands in New Zealand were playing a weekend show here and there. No one was really touring, but we did a big New Zealand tour. I think it was like maybe 8 shows, straight over to Australia to do 7 shows in 5 days, straight to Mexico, straight to the US. It was 33 shows back to back.
Bro, let's break down Australia, because I remember at the time, Antagonist was touring.
Yeah.
I was in smaller bands, and since there wasn't any internet, like it wasn't any Instagram, I couldn't follow anyone's stories. All that really happened was that
MySpace. That's it. Or Punk Has.
Yeah, or Punk Has, but it was all written. Do you know what I mean? All I would see is the Antagonist had gone and Antagonist had come back. Or Saving Grace.
You'd read about it,
and Saving Grace was now back.
Yeah.
So like, so Australia was your first international show.
Yep. So we did a bunch of shows with a band called Bloodsport from Adelaide.
Oh, Australian Hatebreed.
exactly.
Yeah, straight up.
Thank you. Shout out
Yeah.
Bloodsport, bro.
Yeah.
So I bought Bloodsport over to support us in New Zealand 2006 or 7. They came over for 4 shows. We became really, really good friends with those dudes. And then, we took them out, and they took us out on the co-headline run of Australia through a promoter that we'd met back in the mid-2000s, and he booked us, again, like 7 shows in 5 days. Wow. And then we went straight to Mexico and the US. But Australia was fun, man. But that scene was popping back then there too. It's probably bigger now because Australian hardcore is just massive. It looks like the shit like with Speed and all these new bands coming out of the woodwork, like shows are starting to get huge again. But back then it was real fun, man. Like we played shows in skate parks, like cool venues. You know, like I think we did Queensland, Gold Coast. We didn't do Adelaide that run, but we had done Sydney, Newcastle shows. There'd be like a daytime show and you do a night show. And those Destroyer Lines type clubs started coming up around that time. So you'd have the Bangs and all those sorts of club shows. Which
many good nights at Bang.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. But again, like so different to the New Zealand sort of hardcore venues of the day. Like it's not a King's Arms or like a Youth Zone or.
Bro, just the word club. They used to have alternative clubs. Bro, it reminds me. Do you ever see like Triple X with Vin Diesel when he goes down into that basement and fucking Rammstein's playing and shit? Bro,
I don't remember, but I believe it.
That is like, that's essentially, if you're like a straight normie, you walk into that club, that's what it was like being like a New Zealand kid.
For sure.
And then going to Australia and walking into like Bang. It
was weird, bro. They had these like 3-story venues with all these like young dudes covered in tattoos, like or a throat tattoo and hand tattoos, but nothing else. Like they were trying to be those guys.
That was the hands in the throat, nothing else. But
but there was like a whole different sort of people coming out of the woodwork. Like these, like what would you call them? Like I know, like club core scene sort of people. Like they weren't really hardcore people, hardcore adjacent.
If you weren't used to it, like people are so used to it these days. Like you walk past the street, someone's got tattoos. I don't even look at them. I just assume they're actually a normie. Yeah. Like even with the traditional stuff, and just
for sure,
you know what I mean. But
that shit looks old now, because they're like
before it meant something though, right? You're like, you must be into like some
totally.
You must be into something adjacent.
Do you know what I think about these days? In 2003 to 2005, if you saw a dude who was young, like 18 to mid-20s, and he had stretched ears, guaranteed hardcore kid. Yeah. Now, this is before body modification and everyone started stretching their ears. Like that was a thing. Yeah. You knew that dude listened to some bands that you listened to. Yeah. It was that simple, like little things, like back in the day.
But Australia was they were essentially, compared to New Zealand's, they were essentially freaks. You get like the Inked Tattoo magazine. Yeah. Kids covered in tattoos.
Bro, it was wild. I saw real young kids like completely covered, and I'm like, job stoppers like at like 19, 20.
Job stopper was the word. I remember job stopper. Yeah,
bro. So that was wild, but cool shows, great time. And then
what was the vibe like being a Kiwi? Because I mean, there's the whole New Zealand Australia thing. Like New Zealanders are not like true internationals to Kiwis. So you breaking through to Australia, obviously you had the support from Bloodsport, which meant like a lot. Yeah. But
I don't know, man.
Tell me about winning over like Australians particularly, because I find that it is actually quite hard to win over Australians, particularly because we've got that history.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some shows are better than others, but the response kept getting better and better every time we go to Australia from that point on. And I remember at that time, like when we started getting the international support shows and stuff, and Saving Grace actually started touring, like everything we did felt like, wow, we never thought we'd get to do this. Yeah. So everything, the whole time, mega grateful, never expected anything. So just mega thankful and mega like, oh, well, if this is over tomorrow, I'll be so pumped because we got to do all of this. Yeah. So every time another door opened and things would get bigger and bigger to the next level, and this is before managers and agents got involved. This was just when it was us, negotiating and just getting little deals and touring. It was amazing just to see the growth, and like every door that opened, we were just like, man, it's so cool that we get to do this today. Like first US tour was just mind blowing, like standing in the Grand Canyon, like a bunch of dudes from Gisborne.
I remember that exact moment of Matt and I sitting at the Grand, like standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon.
Bro, you remember, it's like
I remember that exact. It was cold as fuck, G. Bro, it was cold. We were all like double hoodies, jackets, and I was freezing. Yeah. But I was just standing at the Grand Canyon. You see that shit on fucking TV.
Totally.
You had no idea. We live at the bottom of the fucking world.
Bro, we're so far away from that.
When someone Yeah, for a New Zealand for a New Zealand person to be sitting there. Well, I mean, New Zealanders travel. That's what people are known for.
Yeah.
But if you get there on something that's like with your business or with your music, like that is an actual extraordinary thing.
Yeah,
So
that is. It's true, and we were mega humbled and like really grateful and also kind of proud of what was going on for us. We were just like, this is insane. That we're starting to do cool stuff, but. I remember the first US tour, bro, like walking into a 7-Eleven, this is like early 2000s, mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Like, you know, paying $1.39 for like a 4-liter thing of like Mountain Dew, Baja Blast, and be like, what is happening in this country? No wonder everyone's so fat. Like, everything's so cheap. Fat, bro, like the fattest shit. We were eating the worst food, bro.
I remember looking at the gas prices and doing mental gymnastics, being like, what does that mean?
What is a gallon for a start? Can anyone tell me how much is a gallon?
Is a gallon?
I can't tell you what a gallon.
Because how many feet are in a gallon, and then how long's a foot?
How many feet in a gallon, bro?
So I'm sitting there looking at my foot. Well, if there's 4 foot in a gallon, and that's only $1, how many feet to fill up my car?
Oh, bro. Yeah, and it's way worse now. Like I couldn't imagine having to start being a band right now and going there for the first time now with the prices the way they are these days. I go to the States a lot still, and like it's just a different world now.
True.
It's a different
we'll bring me back. So we'll go to Australia. Cool. Lots of relatable feelings there, like first time going to Australia and Australians, very like close to home, like
but still feeling intimidated because you're in a different country, different scene where they've got their own bands, they're in, you know, like you still feel like you got to prove yourself, like we were talking about that before, even
multiple
when you're around
big cities as well, you know what I mean? Like here is it's like the New Zealand kind of like as a whole. It's like what I was talking about before. Everyone's back in the day, everyone had their groups, but now it's like the friend circle. New Zealand is the equivalent of the friend circle. There's one genre, there's one band doing each genre of things. And when you go to Australia, people are like fighting. You've got a whole lineup of the same genre, and people are competing with each other. And there's actual, the mindset is so different. There's actual competition.
Well, that's I felt that. Like I felt that in many different times of my life, where you can kind of see that there's this competitive element, or people are trying to not necessarily outshine each other, but they're doing it for a different reason to why I'm doing it personally. And that's always, and I respect everyone for having different motivations or whatever. But for us, it was like we never wanted to become rich and famous doing Saving Grace. We didn't think that this would be my career for the rest of my life. I was always smart and had other things going on, fingers and lots of pies, but I always wanted my art to be genuine, and I never wanted to feel like I need to make an income from it. So when we started getting paid, and you know how it is in hardcore band, bro, you do years and years of grinding, and if you're lucky enough to tour, you tour at a loss, you lose money, you eventually start breaking even. If you're lucky, you get paid, you come back from tour with a bit of money. Like, it's such a different world. But I remember like seeing in the US throughout different times of my travels over there with the band, like these different scenes that would pop up where it became really quite aggressive. You could tell there's a lot of competition, bands vying to get on the same tours. Like the industry that surrounds metal and hardcore, especially in the US, used to be quite nichey. You know, you had to know the right agent, you had to have the right manager, you had to be on the right label to even get the right opportunity to do the next thing. And that, New Zealand's never been like that.
Sometimes I think of that being like a massive strength of a New Zealander that would go overseas. Yeah. Because right then when we were talking about like people fighting for shows, I remember being on the tour bus in Europe, and then a poster gets posted and someone was like, fuck, I wanted that show. Like, no one got back to me, but I wanted that show. No one got back to me. Well, I'm going to call my manager. I'm going to call my promoter. I'm going to call the agency or whatever. And like that just doesn't exist here. Everyone can do everything that they can here. So no one, it's like kind of like monkey see, monkey do. Everyone knows that there's kind of like this whole thing that's happening over in other places. But until you see it, until you experience it,
there is an ecosystem there of people who like this is their job, and I get that. You know, look at Avocado, like Marco and those guys, massive touring agency, done a huge job, built a huge business over there. I respect that. You know, there's probably people in every country that have done that. You know, we were talking about this the other night, Andy and I. Remember Dynamo Dave? Might have been before your time. The hardcore
I know
guy
the name.
That did all the shows. You know, Dave McDermott booked every tour of every band that we wanted to see. The Hatebreed, the Throwdown, the One King Down tours. Wow. That was the one guy. And then New Zealand over the years has always had a guy. Okay. You know, like Ollie was a guy for a bit who was the hardcore promoter. Yeah. Gareth Craze was the metal promoter back in the day. Now we've got Ben Mulchin, who owns Valhalla, who's like done a phenomenal job with heavy music.
Up the Ben, for sure.
You know, big love to Ben, great dude. But, you know, you always have to have a guy who's plugged into that global community of agents and promoters, and like all of us who have been around the music industry for a long time have the battle scars to end the stories, through the different generations that we've seen that stuff in a different light.
Carrying on with Saving Grace's story, so this first tour, I really want to dig into this first tour because this is when you get like a lot of emotions, you got that first buzz. Yeah. And so heading off from Australia and then Mexico next? I've never been to Mexico.
Yeah, we played 4 shows in Mexico with a band called For Today. We were on Face Down Records, became good friends of ours. Big shows outdoor, like most of them were outdoors. So I think we showed up, bro, and like, there were like radio ads in Mexican, just like we just hear our band name just being promoted. It was pretty wild. We were on this cool tour and we did I think shows in Oaxaca. We did 2 there. We did one in Puerto Escondido and one like right in the depths of the jungle.
How'd you get there? Like a
we
band?
We flew. We flew and they had a bus and a driver and the people that looked after us, and the tour package there was 3 bands, us and two US bands.
3 shows.
4 shows.
4 shows.
Yeah, and then after that, straight to the US, bro. I think no, maybe 2 days off in between, and that's when we were in the States, bro. When we played California, I remember the last show I think we played in California in Rancho Cucamonga. Yeah. Jason, the president of Face Down, came and watched us play.
The president?
Yeah, well, the guy that owns the label. That's his formal title.
Yeah, okay.
The president of the United States of Face Down. Yeah, he's the VP of the label. Came and saw us play, and we connected with him then, and that's when we started talking. And by that point, we were on a label called Harvest Earth Records. Okay. That was a Canadian label that put out the CD and North American stuff, and after that tour, we started talking to Face Down and got the Strike First deal for Unbreakable in 2010, and things just started to snowball. We got asked to play Face Down Fest, all those, the shows that we kind of grew up watching on DVDs, going, man, imagine playing that one day, and then getting to be there with all of our like sort of dudes that were on the posters on my wall. It's pretty wild, becoming peers with all those guys, and becoming like just good friends with them, and then eventually just coming back a whole heap to the US and just seeing the fan base grow and grow was pretty wild, So I don't know. I think back on all those times, especially the first 2 albums, and just everything getting bigger and bigger over time. Because I remember the pre-orders for Unbreakable. We did this digipack, and when Strike First, who was like a Face Down subsidiary, signed us for that record. That was the highest amount of pre-sales they'd ever done for a record on that label at that time. We did shitloads. It was like went really, really well because the US started paying attention, and we got lots of hype being a Kiwi band that somehow resonated with a lot of American kids, especially from that sort of Face Down scene, because we were pretty bold and outspoken about our faith and stuff, and a lot of people hadn't seen that from our sort of sound of music before, and we didn't have any. We're not churched people. We've never fit in anywhere. We've been either like loved or hated, and extremely hated by like conservative American Christians as well.
Oh yeah, okay.
So we've never really fit in anywhere. So it was like kind of, people were like, these guys are really interesting and different. I think we got that from a lot of different people. So they paid attention. Interesting.
Yeah. Whole different world. Whole different world. Because that's when obviously niches like that can exist. They got like, what was it? As LA Dying was like band that was promoting that, like the Christian scene. Haste the Day, I recall, and then what was it like? There was
a bunch of shows with both of those bands.
Well, people, the genre was generally, so you would have been a bit of an outlier because there was extremely hard bands, but they were like mixed in with like emo,
Yeah.
So you got like Silverstein and stuff like that.
There was that like really Victory Records sound of overproduced metalcore. And then there was old 90s hardcore influenced metalcore, the stuff that we sort of grew up listening to. But if you think about, spirit-filled hardcore and Christian hardcore bands from the late 90s, like No Innocent Victim, touring with Hatebreed and Gnostic Front, like there was no barriers. Like that was where it came from. In the mid-90s, bands like Outspoken and Overcome, we had no idea about them because we didn't grow up as Christians. Like, I'm not from the church. I love the Lord, and so did Nick, and that's how we started talking about our faith and saying, let's actually do some music where we talk about this stuff. It was never like we're a Christian band. We're like a hardcore dude with a couple of Christian dudes in it. And beyond that, it was always, everyone that came into this band knew that we had these themes in our music, but not necessarily everyone had the same beliefs. And that's what made us a little bit different too, and that's what American Christians hate about us, man. They're just
because over there it's black and white, you're either this or you're that,
We would just like, we would post a promo photo, and like George would just get like hundreds of comments about the fact that he's wearing a Vital Remains t-shirt, like they just go up in arms, like, and we never wanted to be a part of their box, like we never wanted to be boxed in. So like for us, we kind of never really fit anywhere. We were like, we're probably too Christian for the real hard out Satan kids, and way too not Christian enough for the hard out Christian kids. So we were just like, just a pain in the ass, I think, for a lot of people.
Was there any pressure from the label, or was there any pressure to be a certain amount of Christian to play Face Down Fest?
No. Like, I mean, I don't think we would have got signed to Face Down if we didn't have the element in our music, because Jason, the guy that owns the label, is passionate about that. Like, the spiritful hardcore scene, we ended up fitting in there because that's what we were about as people. But, yeah, like, I mean, there was times where remember back in the day, bro, when bands used to have MySpace layouts?
Yeah.
Like we should jazz up your thing, you zhuzh up your MySpace and stuff.
I remember spending ages doing it. Code, remember there was code in it?
All the CSS, hashtag, all that stuff.
F, hashtag.
F.
Just turning up on those first, like, international stages, like, it's crazy because it's so normal to them. You know what I mean? Like, having that whole festival season, or in Europe, you've got festival summer and shit, and you probably grew up on it or something. And then, but for us, it's like nothing even close to that exists. No. And then even things like, for us, stages that have room enough to put your arm out straight either side also don't exist for us.
I imagine playing my first like big festivals and being like, whoa, I've got like so many monitors. I've got like a guy mixing me on the side of stage as well as front of house. You know,
what's he doing?
Like, what's he up to? A guy that would restring my guitar for me and stuff. You know, I'd be like, oh shit, is that how it is? Cracked it, brothers. We cracked it. Yeah. You know, like, it's just stuff you just never think about when you're like growing up playing music in New Zealand. Yeah, it's crazy.
Special moments doing those first tours. So that was that first tour. So it was Australia, Mexico,
New Zealand, and US. I was like, pretty sure it was 33 shows in just under 40 days.
Yeah, and then coming home. Yeah. So you haven't done an album since 2014. So that was in the late 2000s. So there was like, so what you gave it a pretty hard run for like those 4 years.
Yeah, like almost 10 years. Like, well, since 2004 when we did the demo or the first shows to 2014, we'd been like playing heaps of shows. Yeah. Like, when we ended up doing bigger and bigger New Zealand tours as well. You know, like, because
I mean, what was that one that we jumped on? What was that one we played paintball and we stayed in Christchurch?
No, that was Northland Antagonist Saving Grace.
Oh, how good was that? We played paintball. That was awesome. And then we stayed in that hotel and there was that frozen pool and we all jumped out.
Remember that?
Although we did a sauna. And we were all steamed up and then we jumped in that cold pool.
That was Adrian A., original singer of Northland tour.
It was. Yeah. Well, I think it was actually his last tour. I think that was that dude's last tour.
But was it their first New Zealand time or no?
Yeah. Might have been.
Yeah, that was good fun. I remember that. So, 2014, last full-length album came out. Yeah. Then we dropped a single in 2016, Recidivist, shot a video for it. It was supposed to be the first track off the fifth album that never saw the light of day.
Was that the one that was on the pier?
No, that's a song called Wahaka that was shot in Tolaga Bay, under the wharf, spliced with a whole heap of footage from us on our Mexico tour. Oh, nice. It's actually got the footage of all the kids at the orphanage and stuff that we spent time with and stuff.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So did you head to anywhere else? So America, Mexico, Australia, just anywhere else on the belt?
Nah. We never got to Europe. We had heaps of offers, but it never made sense. Like, it was never a tour. It was like a festival with not enough of a guarantee for us to not lose money or something. Or Canada offers that never happened back in the days, but the US was our main focus. It was like US and New Zealand, really.
Canada's super annoying, because they got to you got to get a visa to get into Canada. They don't just let you across there.
Yeah, I would have only done Canada if it was like maybe, you do 20 shows in the US and 5 in Canada and go home. Like, you don't want to go to do a Canada tour. Yeah, take it onto a US tour. But we ended up doing, I think we've done between 60 to 65 US shows.
Wow.
Overall, so we would have done 4 full.
Those are all in like a usually over there you got like a van, right? And you just a single van and a single van, and you got a driver. Yeah. The one story where the Saving Grace and Antagonist cross paths in America.
Yeah, we were there at the same time. Hey,
did not know that.
Yeah, we played the same festival, but a day apart. We played New England Metal Hardcore Festival a day apart. Yeah.
Oh, do we have somewhere to
be? Did you play?
Yeah.
You guys were doing that Murder Death Kill tour. We were doing a co-headline with Those Who Fear at the same time.
Whoa.
Yeah, same time. We were there. We were cross paths.
Yeah.
I don't think we saw each other until we got back. But it was like that time you and I hung out in Bali with Dayat, remember? Just random, like, just bump into the bro.
Yeah.
Some beers.
I love Bali.
No, I love Bali too.
Do you remember this, Matt? Do you remember that they played on the other
different day to us.
Oh, no way.
You don't remember
we didn't see them.
Nah, because you guys left when we got there.
Yeah.
We played. Yeah, you guys must have just bailed until your next show.
Yeah, because I mean, one tour was Los Angeles to New York, and then the next tour, and what ended, it was like Road to Hardcore.
Because you guys Road to Metal Fest, with Alpha and Omega and Expire and stuff.
Expire and Twitching Tongues, yeah. And Power Trip too. And then, so the other tour was back. So I think, we had to head back. But that was brutal, man. Driving from one side of the city and 65 American.
Do you remember
American
how cold
shows.
it was, bro, in Massachusetts that day that Metal Fest was on? It was like almost snowing, but it was cold. And they had the merch tents outside. So I didn't know what to expect.
I tell you what, I knew what was fucking happening. The Boston Bomber had just blown up. The Boston Marathon race, bro.
True.
And we were getting kebabs. And all my family was messaging me, being like, "Oh,
you
like,
good.
Yeah, you were good," because they knew like I was around in that area, and we were getting kebabs. And I remember in the kebab shop there was this little like 12-inch TV bolted to the wall on this like thing, playing on this. We got like a TV with like a curved screen, playing and they were looking for him, and it was right as the helicopter was over, and he was hiding under that dinghy, that upside down dinghy. He was hiding underneath that.
I've got no recollection of that happening at that specific time, but I totally remember that happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you played the next day, it happened the day before. But I remember watching it live on TV, ordering a kebab. Saving Grace has its 10 years of like being like active band, and then you guys slow down.
Slow down, start doing
2014.
We start flying.
2016.
We start flying out to the US like once a year to do one festival instead of doing a bunch throughout the year.
And they're paying you for these festivals.
They fly us out. Face down. We'll just fly us out. They're really good. They're really good.
And it was just you'd fly over there for one show. You wouldn't even do a side show.
Well, it got to the point where we were making enough of like merch royalties, just like the Saving Grace merch machine kicked off by album number 2, and kids would just like buy a whole bunch of stuff off Merch Now, and then we'd get like a check come in for merch, and then Jason would be like, "Hey, I know you guys aren't touring, but I really want you to play Face Down first," so he'd fly us out and just front everything. We just have enough money to book our flights and then come back, and that's it. We'd just sell a bunch of merch and come home and play shows in New Zealand. But it was always depending on who had what going on at the time, right? Because everyone's lives started looking quite different. Like people would either started having children, or like our career started to grow, and like I started getting much busier and traveling for work and stuff, and it's just like we started doing things on our own terms and been like, well, we don't need to tour all year if we don't want to. We can just be selective and do the odd thing here and there. But it's hard to keep up that momentum, especially in the US. Like you want to be there kind of every year, growing, getting on bigger tours. So
yearly minimum is a big thing for regions. 1 year minimum, that's what people expect. That's what they promote us to be.
And people can overplay New Zealand and Australia as well. Like I've seen so many bands overplay even their own city. But
well, that's a perfect time to end this interview, end this podcast. So let's pick this up 100%. Next time you're off, and let's talk about some awesome things like industry stuff. Let's talk about the writing of the songs, really deep dive into that. Let's talk about some more logistics stuff, some lessons that we can pass on to aspiring musicians.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on the pod, brother. My man.
Ciao, bro. Thank you for having me, cuz.
And that is the end of part 2. So that was nice to get a little backstory on Vasily and Saving Grace. He's just a big NZHC kid at heart and gone through, everyone's regular struggles as a musician. So really enjoyed that conversation. Next up on the Kiwistyle podcast, I've got Brainwave from Wellington coming. I've got Luca from Wellington coming. I've got all the boys on the couch talking about the Wellington scene. So hang tight for that on the Kiwistyle podcast. If you want to support me and the channel, you can head over to my band's web store, pick up some t-shirts. I just uploaded some sick new designs like this, and this dope urban camo hoodie. Every order comes with a free sticker pack. Got like 10 loaded stickers in there. And so that's it. Sweet dreams from Grafton City. I'll see you on the next episode of the Kiwistyle podcast.